Welcome back. Today I'm going to try to do a puzzle streak on Lichess. I was going to do Puzzle Rush on chess.com or Puzzle Rush Survival, but that site is still having some issues, so we're going to do with Lichess today. This is my puzzles dashboard, and I'm going to use the puzzles menu at the top to get to Puzzle Streak. If you're not familiar with Puzzle Streak on Lichess, it's basically the same thing as Puzzle Rush Survival. You just try to get as many in a row as you can. Except on Lichess, I think if you fail one, it's over. Looks like my rook is in danger, my knight is hanging. This is supposed to be an easy puzzle, it's rated 1000, but not sure is the solution here just to take the queen? Let's see, if I take the queen, I assume they would take back with my rook, and then I would take the bishop. It's supposed to be an easy one, but I mean, that's what I would do in a game. Oh, and then take the bishop? Oh, I guess that was right because I'm still in it. Okay. Well, that's a little embarrassing. Okay. Here I think we have a simple mate in two. I'm going to check right there with my queen. Nothing of the opponents is protecting that square. My rook is guarding my queen, so the king would have to move over, and then I would checkmate here guarded by my knight. Okay, that was right. Here, once again, I have a rook in danger. I could just take their rook with mine because it's my turn and I'm playing with the black pieces. So I could take their rook, but then they would take mine. I could check at that point, but then we would just be even, I think. So maybe there's something else. For example, I could check now with my rook to f1, and the king can't come this way because of my knight. Oh, and also because of the rook that's checking it. So that's why it couldn't stay on the first rank. All right. So I assume the king would come out here, and then I could check here and win the rook for my knight. If the rook blocked that check, I could just take it protected by my knight. So that's got to be it, right? Okay. And here I think we fork the two pieces and take the rook. Okay, I'm questioning here because if I take the rook and they take back, I have a rook for against their bishop. But oh wow, I was thinking an alternative might be to go here, but knights don't go that way. Now, if they could, that would be a cool fork because I would be hitting the rook and the king and the bishop, and I would get the bishop for free. But knights can't get there, so it's got to be taking the rook, right? Okay, it was. And this one, ooh, my rook is in danger, and my bishop is hanging. So this is a fork, right? I can't defend both of those pieces. So the answer then is not defending one or either of those pieces, is it? What is the answer? That's a good question. Do I have any checks? I don't have a check with the knight. Neither of those are checks. I don't have a check with this bishop. I do have a check with this bishop. That's interesting. That's why you check for checks first, because their queen is not protected here. Now, while it looks like it's posing a double threat, I can pose a bigger threat here that's check. And they could take it with their knight or their king, or they could just move out of check. But then their queen is toast. So I think that's it. I don't have any other checks in this position. The only capture that I see is that pawn, and I don't think I can threaten anything else. All right. That one also felt more difficult than the early easy, quote-unquote easy ones on the other site. That's been my experience since I've been doing puzzles regularly on both sites, that the puzzles on Lichess, for me anyway, tends to be just a little harder, on average. Not per rating, but just puzzle by puzzle. My opponent has blocked the check with their queen, but now their queen is pinned to their king. Now I could take it, and then they would have two choices as to how to take back. That's one option. Another option would be to check again, and they could block with their queen, but then I would take their rook. So what could they do besides blocking with their queen? They could block with their bishop, and then I couldn't take their rook. But if they blocked with their bishop, I guess I could come back here and check, but then they could block with their bishop again, and then I would get that rook. So it looks like I'm getting a rook either way. That's what I'm going to try. Okay, they did block with their bishop, so I'm not getting this rook. But it looks like if I check here, no matter what they block with or move out of check, I'll get that rook. So surely that's the answer here. Okay, they blocked with their queen, but now I get this rook with check. Okay, 5 in a row. I think you can see that number on your screen. Move the rook over. Okay, that pawn is hanging, so I see that they've moved this over to a semi-open file and they're pointing it at an undefended piece. That seems like a reasonable move on their part, but there's some reason that that's not a reasonable move. I think I see it, and I'm just going to say what I saw, and then we'll evaluate. I think I take here, and no matter which way they take back, I get this knight for free, and it's from there I'm protecting that pawn. But I don't know. First, we're going to look for checks. That's not a check. I can't check with this bishop. I can't check with the knight. Can't check with the queen or the rook. So I don't have any checks in this position. Do I have any captures? The only capture that I see is that pawn. Really, that's the only piece I can possibly capture in this position. So it's probably not that. Oh, well, besides the bishop that I already mentioned, right? Okay, so I think that's it. Because again, this pawn is undefended. I could move this bishop here to protect that pawn, but then they could trade off for my bishop, and I could take, and then they would get their knight out of danger somewhere. And then I would have to worry about this, because that knight is currently defended, but still that would just be some even trades, right? So I don't think it's protecting my pawn this way. But my first instinct was to take this bishop, because they don't have to take back. They could take the pawn anyway. But if they did, I would get their queen, and so I don't think they're going to do that. So that's why this is such a big move, is because it is a threat on their queen. So one assumes they would take back either with the pawn or the queen, probably the queen, because the taking back with the pawn would damage the structure around their king, and it would leave a big hole there. So I think my original instinct here was probably right, but once they do that, their knight is undefended. I take their knight, and from there my queen protects my e-pawn. Let's try that. Okay. That was right. They've moved out of check, and for some reason moving backward was not a good plan. Okay, why though? I can check them again with the knight. I can check them again with the queen, one of two ways. Oh, I can check them again here by just winning the bishop, and then the rook is hanging. See what happens if I check them here. I pick up a free bishop. It's just free. Nothing's protecting the bishop. And then there, nothing can block the check. My queen is hitting all of these spots and that one, and they don't have any piece that can get between us here, so they would have to move the king either forward or backward. And then I think I would just take the rook at that point, right? Okay, now a couple of these have felt pretty easy compared to the first one, but still not really easy. Not like mates in one. A lot of times when you do this puzzle rush survival on the other site, the first several, at least in my experience, the first 8 or 9 sometimes are just mates in one or taking a hanging piece. That hasn't been the case here. All right, I have a lot of pieces pointed generally toward my king, but not precisely pointed at a spot that would be checkmate. They're all pointed at slightly different spots, right? And I'm not currently in check because my rook is in the way. Oh, and you know what? Nothing's defending that rook. That's interesting. It could be taking the rook. Is it just taking the rook? What would happen if I just captured the rook? How bad would that be? Because again, they don't have a mate lined up just yet with these two pieces. My initial thought was to check here. Wait, that's not check. Why was I thinking that? Oh my goodness. That was seriously my initial thought was to check here. And then I would win the rook. But that's not even check. Oh my goodness. I need to work on my diagonals pretty badly. Okay. Well, then it looks like my best move is to take the bishop with check and then take the rook. Because if I take the rook first, they're going to move the bishop out of danger. This way I get both pieces. I'm pretty sure. Unless they might block with the queen, but then I would take the queen with check and then take the rook. Is there anything else they can do? That's not defended, right? I mean, the rook can't move that way. This rook's not defending it. I can't even draw an arrow to that square from the rook. Yeah, I think that's better because, again, if I take the rook first, they move the bishop to safety. All right. Okay, again, it starts with the opponent moving out of check. It looks like we are very close to even on material. My opponent has an extra pawn, and that is a passed pawn. However, I do have checks in this position. I can check with the pawn, which I don't think is good. Wait, maybe it is because of that. Okay, several of these puzzles have been undefended pieces and how to win them and what order to win them. And I think this is something that I am getting better at in games. I'm seeing stuff like this a lot where it looks like I'm just throwing away a pawn, but I'm winning a piece. But yeah, the rook is undefended. So if I check here, I suppose they would take it. They could move out of check. That's a possibility. The king could move here, but then that wouldn't stop me from taking the rook. The king could move in front of the pawn, but that wouldn't stop me from taking the rook. And same thing with the king taking the pawn. And the king can't go back over here because my rook obviously is cutting off those squares, which is why it moved here in the first place. I have other checks like moving the rook here, but I think that results in my rook suddenly becoming endangered and my pawn getting blocked. I think it's worth giving up the pawn for the rook. All right. Okay, that looks like I'm in trouble because oh no, the rook's defended. My rook is defended by the knight and the knight's defended by the pawn. Okay. See, I've gotten in situations similar to this in games where I thought, oh no, they've penetrated. I'm going to lose the rook and I'm going to lose the knight. And it's going to be checkmate in just a minute. But I think I'm okay here. Do I have any checks? That's not a check. That's not a check because things are in the way. This bishop can't move. This knight can't check. My queen can't check. Wait, is their queen trapped? I think their queen's trapped. Maybe the first thing I noticed was important because the knight guards the rook guards the pawn guards the knight, the king guards the pawn, the rook guards all of these squares, and of course my queen would be protecting the bishop here. Okay, their queen's trapped. Took me a little too long to see that. I'm about to be in trouble right there because their bishop is protecting that square. I assume they want to put their rook there, and that would be check, which would leave me only, well, it would leave me a few options to get out, but there's something else. Well, for example, I could just take the rook now, or I could just take it with my king. Is there anything else? I definitely don't want to check here. That is a check. I looked at that first because the bishop would take it. I could check way down here on c8, but they would move back there, and then I could take their queen with check. They would have to capture back, and then I could take the rook. But I don't know if I shouldn't I just take the rook now? Why shouldn't I just take the rook now? What was that sound? Did you hear that sound? It was like a bloop. I don't know what that sound is. Oh, it was a notification. It's just outside of your screen. Oh, I won a game. How about that? That's the cool thing about daily games. And I plan on making a video about some reasons to play daily games in case you don't. Many people don't even bother with correspondence or daily games. But I just won a correspondence game while I was playing this puzzle. That's because my opponent apparently must have come back, saw the last move that I made, and resigned. Or they continued playing, and I had set some conditional pre-moves that continued playing against them, and they lost. Anyway, that idea for the video is rolling around in my mind. I honestly don't see a downside to taking the rook right just first, but that almost seems too easy for a 1300 rated puzzle. Is anything else of mine in danger? This is not in danger. It's guarded by the pawn. This is not in danger because it's guarded by the knight. I suppose the queen could check there. And if I had taken the rook with my queen, I couldn't move out of check one of these ways because of their bishop. I guess I could move out of check there, but then they would take my queen for free. Okay, so that's a reason not to take here, for sure. What about taking with my queen? I mean, with my king. They could still check there. And I couldn't move back to here or here or here because of their bishop and queen. So I would have to move behind my queen, and then they would check there, and I would lose my queen. Well, that's not a check, but it would pin my queen to my king, and I would lose my queen for a rook. Okay, so maybe that's why I should check here first, trade off the queens, and then take this. That seems pretty complicated for a puzzle this low rated. Glad I thought that through, because I think I would have missed that puzzle just a few months ago. We don't have a checkmate, because if I do check here, their rook blocks, and then my queen has to do something, go somewhere. I guess I could check with the rook first, but if I check with the rook first, they can still just block with their rook, and if I took their rook, they would take back, and yeah, I wouldn't have another check because their queen guards both of those squares. Wait. Their queen's unguarded. Nothing's protecting their queen. So check here. They block with the rook. I check down there on g8, and they have to take it with one of those two pieces, and then I win their queen, I think, for a rook. But wait. Okay, see, right now they're a rook ahead. We both have a queen, but I only have one rook. So after this, and this, which I think they would have to do. I mean, they could block with the queen, but they're not going to. For this and this, I check with the rook down there. They take, or they could take with the king, doesn't matter. And I get their queen, and then I've gone up an exchange, basically. But they have 2 rooks for my queen. But that's better than where I am now, where they just have an extra rook, right? Okay, coming from behind, I guess. I know that the 2 rooks is more than a queen, right? Okay, just barely. And it depends on the person, and I suppose depends on their layout of the rest of the board. There were a lot of pawns left there, and rooks have a hard time getting around all those pawns, whereas a queen can just slide between them diagonally. So maybe that was why I had an advantage there. My knight is in danger. There's no question, which makes me want to move it. But the question is where. I wouldn't mind moving it here. That's a check. If we just get out, I assume. And also check there. And I have this check. That's one way of, I guess, defending the knight temporarily, is because they can't take it when they're in check. But if I went there, wouldn't they? Okay, they can't come out. So I think they would have to take with the rook. And then I would check again. Oh, and that would be mate, because my knight's guarding the getaway square, and then the king can't go this way because of the rook. Oh, I think it's just mate in 2. Okay. Well, we've gone 13 in a row, and as I mentioned at the beginning, as soon as I miss one, this will be over. I don't remember what my record is on this version of Puzzle Streak. I think it's 20-something. 24, 26, something like that. It doesn't say here on the page, so I have no idea. But something like that. And I'm not really going for the record. I'm just trying to get better at chess. Okay, I can check here, and that pawn cannot take because of my queen pinning the pawn. So that's one option. But the knight's not in danger. It's protected right now. So maybe there's something else. Oh, that rook's hanging. Wow. Is this like the 6th or 7th puzzle in this little streak here that involved a piece that doesn't look like it's hanging, but it is because of this? I will check. They'll move out of check. And when they move out of check, that will also be check. And then I can save the knight. Check. They can't take because the pawn is pinned. And they can't move out of check here and here because of my queen. So they would have to go back to one of those squares. And this is a check. Free rook and check. So then they would have to, or that would be mate, because the knight's guarding that square. So it's not just a free piece. That was checkmate. Wow. Because again, the knight guarded the getaway square. Okay, from the sound, that wasn't just a rook moving there. That was a capture. They took something. I'm guessing a pawn. Looks like the base of my pawn chain that they were cleaning off there, protected by their knight. I don't want to take it. I know that, because if I take it, that's checkmate. Queen to f2, protected by the knight, is checkmate. So I definitely don't want to take it. But, I almost said I have checkmate too, but, oh, I do. Because my rook guards that spot. Check, they have to take, and then checkmate. Okay, this is a mate in 2 then. Pretty sure. Okay, that one had me a little nervous. What do we have here? Oh, the pawn got out of the way of the rook attacking my queen. They have a bunch of pieces protecting that spot. Almost all their pieces are protecting that spot. The only way they could have more pieces protecting that spot is if the bishop was one diagonal over. So I don't think I should start slamming into that spot with my 2 measly pieces here. I would just lose both of them for that rook. And the next piece that came along. So I would lose queen and rook for a rook and a knight. That's not good. However, I do have a check. I think, though, wouldn't they just take here? Oh, but then if they did, I have mate. And if they didn't take and they moved up, I have mate over here. Well, I'm glad I made it at least this far. It would have been embarrassing if I had started this video and I only solved like 4 puzzles and then missed one. I was afraid I was going to miss the first one. But if that happened, I was going to delete the video and start over, because that's the kind of thing you can do when you're not playing live. Okay, once again, puzzle started with the opponent moving out of check. I can follow up with a check here, and then, see, is that the only check I have? I have multiple checks. Oh, is that one mate? No, yeah, wait. Well, this is the first one I saw, so let's see. If I do this, the only legal move for the king is to go over one, and then I don't have a good follow-up check because the bishop's guarding that spot. Okay, if I check here, they can block with the bishop. Oh, but then that would be mate. Wait, do I have multiple mates here? Do they have any? Oh no, they don't have to block with the bishop. They could move over, but then that's not mate yet because the rook still blocks and I'll take it. So it looks like that's actually my best first move. The rook has to block and then I take it and that's mate. Because this one, what did I say about that one? The king moves out and I don't have a good follow-up check. Because the other places I can check from there, that's protected by the king, that's protected by the bishop, that's protected by the pawn, and that's protected by their other pawn. So no follow-ups. Here I do have follow-ups, but they involve going down there, which I could just do now. So it's got to be that. Okay. But according to the rating in the upper left there, we have climbed from 1100 and something up to 1400 range, which is still a little lower than the normal puzzles I've tried to solve on Lichess. I'm usually solving puzzles 17, 18, 1900, or around the 2000 range. I've moved here to challenge this bishop, which is undefended. Do I have any checks? Not a check, not a check, not a check. Would it be a bad idea to take here, I think, because of the knight? I could take the knight first, but then they would take back with the bishop, or I could just take this bishop first, and then they would take back, and they wouldn't be guarding this anymore. And I have two attackers on the knight. If I take this now, they take back. I'm not going to take back because I'll lose my queen. So, because what I was originally thinking was I would take, they would take, and then I would take this pawn where I would be guarding my bishop. But I can just trade off the bishops now, and then win this knight for free. Free because I also get the bishop for my bishop. Okay. Yeah, that's not quite checkmate there at the end. I was seeing this, which is a protected check from my knight, but the king would just move over, and I couldn't follow because their knight's protecting in the corner square, although I could win the knight there because their knight's undefended. But are they about to checkmate me? Not really. I don't think. That pawn's protected, and the pawn is protecting that square. That's not, whoops, the queen can't go check, cannot check on any of those squares, and can't check here because of this, can't check here because of their own pawn. So I don't think I'm in danger of being checkmated. Their bishop can't get far enough over here to check me that way. So maybe that's it. Check there, their king moves over, and then I take their knight, and I'm threatening mate. Wait, if I do that, and they move over because they have to, there's no other choice, and then I take their knight, wouldn't they just move this rook one square forward? I think they might. And then what would I do with my queen? I guess I could go back there. I don't know, but it looks like an undefended. Or should I take the rook first? They would take back, one assumes, but then I wouldn't have a check. And it's easier just to go up a free knight than trade a knight for a rook, I think. And I don't see any other checks or captures or threats other than that and that. So I'm going to try this. All right. Maybe I overthought that one, but it felt like it needed some thinking. I have a check. I have a check. I have this check, which is interesting because the pawn is pinned. Or the king would just move over though, wouldn't it? And if it moved over, then my queen is still hanging. If I take this first and they take back, then I don't have a check, and I'm down a piece, right? Or I'm down an exchange, knight for a rook at some point. So I don't think I should just want to trade that off because I don't have a follow-up. I think I want something more than that, like picking up one of their pieces. So check, they move over, but then both my pieces are hanging. That doesn't look good at all. Their pawn's threatening my knight, their queen's threatening my queen. But what else do I have? I suppose I could check again, but then they could just take it. And that doesn't leave their rook hanging. It temporarily frees my queen, but wait, if they did that, no. I wonder if this rook back here is relevant somehow, but that just loses a rook. I'm already down a rook for a knight. Okay. Well, this one's rated only 1600. I should be just smashing through this one. Surely it's not a queen sacrifice. Which one would they take with? They could take with either one, and I couldn't endanger either one after that. I think the king would move here. And again, no follow-up because the queen just takes it. Wait, maybe then I take their queen, and then they would have to take back with their king, and then I get their rook or the knight, and then we're even? Is that what it is about going back up the exchange? I don't know. I'm going to try it. I'm going to take the queen because they're going to take it back. Then I'm going to take the rook. And when they take the rook with their king, then I'll have a check here and picking off the base of their pawn chain. Right? Because sure, it's not taking the rook first because they'll take my queen. So I think I have to take their queen first. Pretty sure. Okay. Then it's from here, it has to be taking the rook. Oh, it didn't go any further. Okay, but as you saw, once they took back with their king, was the only piece that could take back, then I would pick off the base of their pawn chain with my rook with check, and then get the next pawn that was right beside it. I can't go back as far as I know. Oh, maybe I can. Maybe I can click on that and go back, but then I might get taken out of my puzzle streak, so I'm not going to try it. Maybe when I get done here, I will remember to copy and paste these. Oh yeah, each one of those is a URL to the puzzle that I just did. Nice, every one of those check marks. Okay, maybe I'll remember that. I don't know what order they're going to be in. Did they start here? I don't know. Okay, well, I've got 20. I do have some checks, one at least. That's a check, but that looks like it just loses a bishop. No checks with the queen, no checks with this bishop, no checks with the knight, or any of my pieces in danger. Not immediately, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're about to move this rook over here, aiming somewhere down this line. Even though I have that pawn defended twice, they could probably put more pressure on it with their bishop, say, over here, and then the pawn would be pinned by the rook in the back. But currently, they don't know, they might want to take that first and then put the rook there, pinning whatever I took back with. I don't know. Or here. I don't know what their plan is, but this pawn was apparently a blunder. They shouldn't have done that. Why not? In a game here, I think I would be very tempted to castle, but it's not. What should I do? If I take the knight with my bishop, and they took back with the bishop, the knight on f6. Sorry, I have to readjust myself. I've been sitting here for more than 30 minutes. Okay, and I assume they would take back with the bishop, and I'm not going to take back with my queen because their queen is also guarding that, so maybe that's not a good idea. What if I jump my knight? Oh, their knight's pinned. Took me too long to see that. Maybe that's what I need to do is jump this knight in here. Then what would they do? Would they move to threaten the knight? If they did push that pawn, I could take that with check. And if they moved out, I would have just gotten a free knight. If I put my knight on d5 and they move the c pawn to threaten it, I take here with check. If they take back, I take with my bishop, and then I am threatening their queen. And I've gotten 2 pieces for 1. So that seems like a pretty good threat here, rather than taking this first. Because again, if they take that first, they take back with the bishop. And then if I put my knight here afterwards, they can just drop their bishop back, and I've just traded off my bishop for their knight. So I think it makes sense to threaten first. But they have another move first. What would their move be? All right, well, this might be the point at which I fail my puzzle streak, but I see nothing else. I'm going to try knight to d5. And they did take it. That surprised me. So I'm just going to take their queen for a bishop. And then when they take back, I'll take this knight here with probably not the pawn because of the check. I just take the queen, right? Guess so. Maybe if they did something else, like move the c pawn like I initially thought they would, maybe I didn't have a best move after that. Maybe there were 2 or 3 equally good moves. Like maybe the bishop or the knight could take their knight and it wouldn't matter because it was a free knight. That's probably why the puzzle went the way that it did. Okay, I'm learning to see pins. Finally, months and months into this, I'm learning to see pins. That knight is pinned, so I'm not yet really worried about that. Also, the knight's not hanging. I almost said the knight's hanging, but it's protected. Okay, but it is if I do this. If I check first, then I can win the knight because it's only defended by the queen. And that's why we look for checks first. One of the reasons we look for checks first. Okay. It's my only check in this position besides capturing the knight with my queen, which I will not do because of their queen. So, check with the knight on f5. Their king has to move out of check. It could move out of check in a number of ways, and then I would capture the knight, I think. Oh, no, I would capture the knight with my queen because my queen's hanging. I would check here, and whichever way their king moved out of check, I would capture. Oh, I can't move my queen. Because, oh wow, okay. And this puzzle's only not even rated 1600. I can't move my queen. Oh, I take the knight first. No, I can't. Again, I can't move my queen. What? Well, this is very confusing. Wait. If I check with the knight, the king cannot move out of check to one of these places because of the rook. My rook is cutting off that entire file once the knight gets out of the way to f5. So the king's only legal move would be to h5, and then I would have mate. And the reason I started looking for this is once I realized I cannot move my queen. It took me, you saw it to how long it took me to realize I can't move my queen. At first I thought, oh, I could take this. Well, they would take back. Well, then I could check and get their queen and the knight, but no, I can't move my queen because it's pinned. So check, only one legal move, because again, rook. My rook is cutting off all of these squares now that the knight's out of the way over on f5. And that knight from there is blocking off those two squares, and the rook is still hitting that one. So that would be checkmate. Wow, almost missed that. Okay, I have a lot of pieces all lined up here, but they can't go anywhere because I made the interesting decision to put a pawn at the front. So all these pieces are stuck behind this pawn. So what do we do? What do we do? One way we could get that pawn moving is to get the pieces out of its way. How to get that piece out of the way? I could think of two ways to get that queen out of the way. If I capture the g-rook with check, the queen doesn't have to move out of the way. King could capture. If I take their c-rook with check, that's not check, but I assume they would capture back. But then I could push the pawn forward. I would have just lost my queen for a rook, but then I could push the pawn forward. And we know, and still trying to get it deep into our brains, that a pawn, once it gets to the 6th rank, or in this case, the 3rd rank, going toward the white side, 6th, 7th, it becomes suddenly much more valuable. I don't know, is it more valuable than the exchange I just went down? Let's think about this. If I capture this rook, they don't have to take back. But I assume that they would. I assume it would be their best move to capture back with the queen. And then I could push the pawn forward again, because there's nothing in front of it. Now that it's down there, on what my 7th rank counting away from me, their 2nd rank, it's suddenly very, very, very valuable, and nothing's defending the promotion square. So they're there, push the pawn forward to e2. They can't bring the king here to protect the promotion square, or they could bring the king here to protect the promotion square, but then I would promote, and it would be guarded by the two rooks at the back. So I think that's actually a decent plan. They might take with the rook right there, I think is what they would do. I think they would take that pawn with the rook, and then I would take their rook with mine, and if they took back, I would take their queen, and I would have a rook left. I'm going to try it. Hold on just a second. Hello? All right. Just got a phone call from my lovely spouse. It took me a second to realize what that vibrating sound was. They did not do what I expected. Back in the middle of this puzzle, I think I should promote with check, right? Why wouldn't I? Well, let's just make this easy. I can't move any of these pawns. And I don't know if I were going to move any of the rooks, where would I move them to, right? Where am I going to move any of these pawns? I mean, any of these rooks. I can move the king, but that doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to promote to a queen. Oh, okay. I'm surprised there was one more move there because that one seemed so obvious. But anyway, I'm playing with the white pieces this time. Very confusing. Let's see, that's not good, but that is a check. That's a check. That's a check. Because you're supposed to start off puzzles. It's good advice to start off every puzzle by looking at your checks. That's actually not bad because the rook's down here, but their rook is also guarding that square. So it's kind of bad. If I captured their knight with check, I could capture with the rook, and they could capture back, and then I would be in big trouble down here. So probably not good. What if I captured with the queen first? Probably just as bad because they would capture with the rook. And if I captured with my rook, they would take with their king, and I could put them in check, but then their queen would take it, and I would be in big trouble. Okay, so maybe it's not one of the checks. Maybe not. What about that? Probably not good because the king would just take it. And my only follow-up would be giving away the rook, and again, I would be in big trouble down here on my back rank. I don't think I should take this because their knight would take, or their queen would take. Probably the knight. My experience. I could take that pawn with my knight, or any of their pieces undefended. Their rook's undefended, but I can't really get to it. Oh, you know what? I just saw this. I have to check on every turn. Yeah. I have to check on every turn because I'm going to get mated the second that I'm not checking my opponent. Back to the original plan of checking. Really? What is it? If I check with the rook by taking that knight, they'll take it with their rook. Okay, yeah, that's the problem with this one, is that I get checkmated the instant I stop checking my opponent or protect g2 with something. So, I mean, I could move this rook over to g1. That way they wouldn't checkmate me, but I'm down a piece, right? I'm down an entire piece. So just huddling up around my king and defending doesn't seem like the best idea, but I don't know what other options I have. If I take this pawn with check, they can take back with the knight, and I could take back with my knight, but then they would take back with their queen, and they would have a queen and a bishop and a rook left, and I would just have this. That would be it. So going back to the checks. My phone's ringing again. Okay, that second phone call was the school district calling to say that there's no school tomorrow because of weather. So good thing I made this video today, because I will not have time to make it tomorrow. Oh my. Oh wow. Did you see how long it took? Did you already see it? Did you guys already see that that was check? Why did it take me so long to see that? I think I mentioned it right at the beginning when I said, oh, I could check here, here, or here. But that's a check. They have to move back. Nothing's guarding that square except me. So they would have to go to the corner. Once they go to the corner, then I take the knight, and they take my queen, and I take their queen. Oh, wow. That took way too long to see. Sorry about that. I'm going to do some editing, so this video won't be very long for you, but it is already very long for me, and in a few minutes, I have to go pick up one of my kids from school. Oh, it's freezing rain. It'll be a couple of days late by the time you get this video, but yeah, we're having freezing rain here, so all our roads are going to turn to ice, and so everything's going to close. Good thing we got groceries, and we have a nice, comfortable house. But yeah, I kind of want to take one of those knights. I'm just not sure which one. Do I have any checks? That's not a check. That's a check, but the pawn just takes it, I think. And then I don't have checks here. I don't have a check there. That's not a check. All right, well, we might have reached the end now. I thought we reached the end a puzzle or two ago, but now it's definitely feeling like the end because I have no idea. I do have two captures, two possible captures, which are the two knights. I can take that one two different ways. If I take that one, I'm pretty sure they're going to take my queen, and then I don't have a check at that point, although I could take their queen with their bishop with my rook, but then what? If I take this first, I assume they'll take back, and then I'll have a pawn hitting this knight. So then I would want to take their queen and then take the knight. Maybe that's it. Okay, well, I just kind of guessed there. Oh my. Well, I only have a couple choices. Oh, they moved I'm playing with the white pieces. Wait, is this, oh, my pawn's about to promote. Okay, they're coming this way because this is the first rank, A1 and H1. Okay. It's a little disorienting because all the dark pieces are down here and all the light pieces are over there, but I'm headed toward promotion this way. If I promote now, I assume they would take with their rook, and then I would take with my king, and then what? Then they would push this pawn. If I take this now and they take back, and then I promote, they would take and I would take, and it would be a stalemate. So that's probably not it. What if I checked first? If I check first, they are just going to get in front of or behind their pawn. So I could pretty much check them continuously and come back, and they would go over here, and then I would check over there, and they would go back trying to protect that pawn. This is probably related to the Philidor position or the Lucena position, but I don't know which one. Let's see. If I promote and they don't take, then I could just move my king, and that would be check. Well, I would move my king there so I could protect my pawn. So I assume they would take. So let's assume that they would capture there. I would take back, then they would push this pawn, and if I gave up my rook for it, then it would be a stalemate or a draw by insufficient material. So maybe I shouldn't promote just yet. Maybe I don't know. Or should I go here? If I go here, they push the pawn, and then I promote. But then they could promote. But then, oh no, if they promoted, then my rook would take their rook, and their queen would come here, and then I would take back, and I would have a queen left. Okay, so maybe that is the best move. But if I go there and they push forward, and I promote, and they take my rook, and I take I take their rook, then they promote, and we both have queens. That's what I'm going to do because I'm running out of time. Oh, they just took it. Oh, okay, and now when I promote, it was gonna be with check, but it's not now because they moved the king. But surely promoting is the best move. Okay, made it to 26. I thought I was gonna fail that puzzle, and I'm definitely getting up around 1700, which can be pretty tough puzzles. Definitely not fast ones. I do have a couple of checks. Well, one. I have one check, which is moving the knight there, but that looks like I just lose a knight. I could. Oh, I can take the rook. Yeah. And then when they'll take back, I assume, and then I would have a check and win the queen. That seems good. And that's check, and I win the queen. Wow. Sometimes I do better when I go faster. That's crazy. Okay, I'm down a piece, but I'm going that way. That's the first rank. A1 is down there. Good thing. You know how confusing these would be if I didn't have the letters here? Because there's an option in your settings to not have the letters and numbers in the squares. If the letters and numbers weren't in the squares, I would think these pawns are coming this way, and I would try to move one of them this way, and it wouldn't work. So it's definitely good that I have the letters and numbers in the square. So I know these pawns are going this way. And I know that this pawn has suddenly become worth more than 1 point as we value material because of how far advanced it is. Okay. And I know that they've just moved their rook in front of their pawn, which is going that way. And therefore that pawn can't move. So I'm thinking... And they also can't check me right now. All my pieces are on dark squares. So what's to stop this from promoting? They could go back and then I'll promote. Doesn't make any sense to do this. Their king's in the way. And if I try to check them to get them out of the way, they would just take my pawn. If I check them now, they'll come back here and then my pawn's not defended. Right now the pawn's defended by the fact that their king can't get there. So I think the best move is to move this pawn forward. I don't see anything else. Should I take their bishop first? They would take back, and then I would move the pawn forward? I don't think so. No, because, again, my rook is keeping their king from getting to this pawn. All right, well, again, maybe we're done here, but I'm going to push the pawn. Oh, and they put their rook there. Well, they're going to give up their rook for this pawn? Maybe they are, because this one's here. And I have to be very careful. My king can't catch their passed pawn. Only my rook can catch their passed pawn. I have to be careful. Is this another situation where I should put my rook in between their rook and my passed pawn, or should I just promote and get their rook? Because if I did that and they took it and I promoted, then I guess they could push this, but then I can't check on the next turn because of where my king and queen would be. I would have to move someplace to get it in position to check. I don't know. It's either this or this. It's one of those two. Nothing else makes sense. I'm going to promote. Oh, it says new streak. It's behind my camera view. It says new streak 27. Is that my record? I don't know. Maybe it is. I'll find out before I post the video. If so, it'll probably be in the title, but I knew it was 20 something. Anyway, the answer was to move the rook over, and then they would take, I assume, and then I would take their rook. Is that what it should have been? Well, the stockfish is hung up there behind my title, so I don't know what the answer was supposed to have been. But I will put I think the links are still here, and I just remembered I'm going to try to copy and paste all those links into the description of this video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.